Okay, class, so we've gotten through Photoshop and now we're going to start into audio. Audio is a very important part of any project that you are doing, any moving project, whether it's an audio standalone, obviously very important, but even if it is a video project, audio is at least half of your message. So it is very important to get good, clean audio, get good, clean mix, make sure your levels are correct, so that your audience will hear the best message, the best output that you can get. So we're going to start off. This is just a lesson. What we're going to do is this is a interview. It's a podcast interview of the podcast host and a photographer. So we have actually got three files: the interviewer, the interviewee, and some music to mix at the beginning and the end. So we are going to let's jump right into Audition. Here is the zip file that I downloaded from the link that I sent you. So I'm going to double click it to unzip it. There's our unzip folder. I'm going to open up, and you can see that it has our interview, our two parts of the interview and the music, and then here is the guide. Here's what's telling you what this lesson's about. You can print that out and kind of follow along. All right, so now we want to open up Audition, and let me tell you about the interface here. This up here is where our assets are going to be when we import in. This is where they will land. This is a media browser, effects rack, markers. This is a helpful thing when we get into more advanced things. We will not be using it for this session. Here is our history down here. This is our work area. This is where we're going to see our waveforms of our audio. And then here is our VU meter. If you remember from 2301, we monitor our audio two different ways. We monitor it both objectively and subjectively. Objectively is looking at the VU meter and seeing what the levels are. Subjectively is listening to it on headphones or on speakers to hear how it sounds. You cannot rely on either one of those independently. You must use both of those methods, objectively and subjectively. Okay, so that's what our VU meters are doing down here. And then up here, when we get some files in here, you'll see these better. But here's our tools up here. So the first thing we want to do is import our assets into here. So I can right click in here to import, or I can go to File, Import, File. Now I want to go to I'm going to go to the desktop. Here is the folder that I had unzipped. Here are our three audio files that we're going to be using for this session. So I am going to just click and highlight all three of these and open them. So you can see I've got these three files now in as assets. Well, we've got the blue one there is the Robert Vanelli part of the interview, and you can see his waveform here. If I double click on the Rich Harrington, now you can see his. If I double click on the music, there's the music. But I've got to combine all of these together to mix one file out of them. So to do that, I'm going to do a multi-track mixdown. So up here is where it says multi-track. So I'm going to click on the multi-track, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me a dialog box to where I'm going to name my session, where am I going to save it, and the other aspects of it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to call this AU for Audition. This is going to be number 4. I'm going to just call it Interview. Now I want to save this in the same folder that I've got all of my assets. So I'm going to hit Browse. I'm going to go to make sure I'm desktop. Here is the folder that everything else is in. Now you'll see that this has got these PKF files. Those are files created by Audition when you import things, certain audio in, and those are just Audition files. Don't worry about them. We don't need them. That's just something they do. So this is where I want to save my mix down. So I'm going to choose that. Now the other thing I want to do is my sample rate. You can see I've got all these different sample rates here. I want this to be 4,800 hertz. My bit depth, I'm gonna put at 24. I'm gonna leave it at stereo. So these are the things. This is the settings that I need for this. So I'm going to say OK. Now you can see that I have got a multi-track session set up. You can see track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what I'm going to do is, since Rich is our host, I'm going to bring him over and put him on the top track, track number 1, make sure it's all the way at the beginning. Now, this track is not the same sample rate or bit depth that we have. We're doing it, so it's asking, do we want to update this to match our session? And yes, we do. So I'm going to say OK. So it takes a moment, and now it is created. And if you look over here, we now have a Rich Harrington WAV file as opposed to an AIF file. AIF file is an audio file that Audition can read, but it is converted to a WAV file that is that same sample rate and bit depth. Now I'm going to bring in the Robert Vanelli. I'm going to put him on track 2, make sure he's all the way at the beginning. And it's going to ask the same question. I'm going to say OK, so it takes a moment. So now you can see that even though these are on 2 different tracks, the way this is set up is they are already in sync. Let's play this right here. You can see where.
How you doing this morning, B?
Hey, doing great.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so you can see these are in sync. So that's great. So the first thing I want to do before I start doing a lot of things is I want to look at my audio levels. Remember, we want to have these at about -12. That's where our that's the level that we want our audio to be. If we watch our VU meters down here as we play this.
Hi, this is Rich Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition of
so you can see we're kind of peaking at -9.
Also known as V or Vanilla.
So we want to bring that down. So I'm going to go up here. This will bring the entire track down. So, whoop, sorry. All right. So this is going to bring the entire track down. So if I go up here, this will bring the entire track down. So if I go up here, this is our volume for the track. So it's at 0. So remember, we were at about -9, and we want it to be at -12. So I'm going to take this down -3. Now I'm going to play this and look at my VU meter down here.
You are listening to a special edition of the Photo Focus podcast. Joining me today is Robert Vanelli.
You can see it's peaking right at that -12. So we want to do the same thing with, let's check our interviewee. Let's check Robert Vanelli.
I would say the #1 tip I'd like to give everyone.
Looks like it's doing about the same. So I'm going to go here on this one and say, let's make it do it to a -3.
Build a rapport. Just build a rapport with your subject. Get to know them. Get them to feel comfortable in front of the camera. So this way, when you're out there shooting them, you're actually creating a likeness of them. You're capturing.
It's still a bit hot. I'm going to take this down another 2. So I'm going to make it to a -5.
Their inner spirit.
Now I'm going to back up here.
I would say the #1 tip I'd like to give everyone is build a rapport. Just build a rapport with your subject.
So you can see now it's peaking about -12. So we are in good shape here. So what we want to do is, these are in sync. If you remember, there is a technical difficulty about halfway through this interview. So if we go down here.
Oh shoot, my settings were way off.
Hold for a second. We're getting a little interference.
We're having some trouble.
Getting some interesting electrical.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go down.
All right, well, we're just going to edit that part out, and that's part of the process. So you nailed it. People didn't know what they were getting, yet they still made great.
Okay, I like that. This is where I'm going to pick up. I'm going to end it right after Vanelli says
Settings were way off.
settings were off. Rich kind of interrupts him here. It's very tight. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll show you what.
And I realized that, oh shoot, my settings were way off.
Hold for a second.
So I'm going to go about there is where I want to cut off. Now I'm going to zoom in. Up here is a representation of your entire session. I can grab these ends and zoom in so you can see that.
For a second.
Settings were way off.
Hold for a second.
So I'm going to go here. This is where I want to start to cut out this technical difficulty. Again, don't worry about this. I'm going to show you how we'll clean it up later. So I want to go up here to my razor blade tool, which is the shortcut key is R as well. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to both on the Rich Harrington part of the interview and the Robert Vanelli part. I use my playhead to line things up to make sure, since these are in sync, to make sure I'm cutting the same place. Now I'm going to go down. Now I think it's.
So you nailed it. People didn't know what they were.
So here is where I want to pick up. So I'm going to do that. I've already got my razor blade tool selected, so I'm going to cut here and cut here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see both ends of this. So here is the part we're cutting out. I want to go back up and select my move tool. I'm going to select the part that's here, and I'm going to hit the delete key. Do the same thing on the Robert Vanelli part of it. Now you can see if I right click on my mouse and do a ripple delete gap, do the same thing with this part of the on the Robert Vanelli part. So now you can hear.
My settings were way off.
Hold for a second. So you nailed it. People didn't.
So I like the timing of that, but I've got this bit of Rich that's kind of interrupting him that I don't want. So watch what I can do. Look at I'm on my move tool. When I move my cursor down and get close to the end of that, you can see it turns into, there we go, turns into that bracket to where I'm just going to shave off that part of it. Now let's listen.
My settings were way off.
So you nailed it. People didn't know what they were getting.
So I like that very much. Let's go down here to, let's zoom out so we can see. Okay, so if we listen,
Yet they still made great pictures.
this is Rich. So if we come down here to where Robert starts talking again, so Rich is going to say,
one more thing we can do to make better portraits.
okay, now it takes Robert a moment to kind of get back into things.
So, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm so glad you asked that. Over the last couple of days.
All right, so I want to pick up it right here where he says, I'm so glad you asked that. So I'm going to go to my razor blade tool. I'm going to cut both of these. Now I want to go back here, and right after Rich,
To make better portraits.
right there, I want to cut here. So I'm going to go back to my move tool, select that, hit delete, select that, hit delete. Now I'm going to do a ripple delete of the gap, ripple delete from the gap, and let's listen.
Portraits.
I'm so glad you asked that. Over the last couple of days.
So if we zoom, whoop, I grabbed the wrong part. There we go. So let's zoom back out. From here on in, we're good. We're good all the way to the end.
So I took this little child.
So what I want to do is listen. If we listen at the very end,
With Robert Vanelli.
Okay, you can hear that we've got a little something there. Again, just going to trim this off. I'm going to do the same thing because I want both of these to end at the same time, so I'm just trimming that off.
I'm Rich Harrington, and we've been speaking with Robert Finelli.
All right, now we've got our thing. It's almost ready, but we want to go all the way back to the beginning. Let's listen to the beginning.
Away we go. 3, 2. Hi, this is Rich Harrington.
So we want to trim that countdown off. So again, I'm going to use this tool, get both of these the same. So now
Hi, this is Rich Harrington.
we're smooth beginning. We've got a little gap here, but that's all right. We're going to be adding music to this. So now I'm going to go get my interview music. I'm going to put it on track 3, put it all the way at the beginning. And again, it's going to ask, do I want to update it to my current settings? And I say yes. So now if I listen, and it's a
Hi,
little
this is Rich
loud.
Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition.
So what I'm going to do is, now remember, this is doing the entire track. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to do about a -6 on this. It sounded pretty loud. So
Hi, this is Rich Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition of the Photo Focus podcast. Joining me today is Robert Finelli.
we're still a bit loud, so I'm going to go here and do a -9 on it. Now let's see how.
Hi, this is Rich Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition of the Photo Focus podcast. Joining me today is Robert Finelli, also known as V or Finel.
Okay, that's good enough. We're going to be mixing that down. So I'm happy with the way the music comes in. But then I want to have that music drop down and play below my interviewer. So how I can do that, let's zoom into this part of, I keep grabbing the wrong thing. There we go. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to make this a little bigger so you can see it. Our yellow line here is our volume line. And so this is giving us a graphic representation. It's showing us that this volume is steady all the way through. So I like the fact that this music is soft, hits a note. Now we're going to bring it down underneath Rich. So as soon as this note happens here, so starting about here, I want that music to come down. So if I'm on my move tool and I come down here and you can see where my cursor changes to a plus mark and I click, I have put in a keyframe. Let me talk about keyframes for a moment. Keyframes are waypoints. If I was going to tell you to get up from your computer and go to your kitchen, my first thing is you're sitting at your computer. First thing would be stand up. Next thing would be go to the door. If your door's closed, you're going to open the door. Step out into the hallway, depending on which way you have to do, turn right or left, turn right. Go down to the kitchen, turn left to go into the kitchen, whatever it is. Every one of those points is a keyframe. You, as the person, knows you don't have to tell me how to get up. You just told me to get up, so I'm going to get up. You're filling in the gap between. You say go to the door. I don't have to say lift a foot, set it down, lift a foot. No, you know how to get to the door. If you have to open the door, you know how to do that. So all I'm doing is saying here are the waypoints. You're going to fill in all the steps in between. That's what the computer does. I'm going to say start at this volume. Now watch. I'm going to grab about the same time that Rich starts speaking. I'm going to click but hold down and bring the volume down. Now watch what happens. I don't have to tell it this. It knows from here to here. The computer's going to figure out what to do. So now let's listen.
Hi, this is Rich Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition of the Photo.
To me, it still sounds a little loud, so I'm just going to grab my keyframe there and just bring it down a little bit more because I'm listening to these big beats.
Hi, Hi, this is Rich Harrington, and you are listening to a special edition of the
And I don't want those to be so loud that they will distract.
Robert Pinelli, also known as V or Pinelli, and he's a professional photographer as well as an author for lynda.com. And I've asked him to come and give us a couple of quick tips about making better portraits. How you doing this morning, V?
Hey, doing great.
Thanks for joining us.
All right, so at that point, I want the music to start fading out and get rid of it altogether. Now, if you see this little box here, that's, half white, half black, that is a fade out. If I grab this box and drag it over, and then as I move it up or down, it kind of gives the envelope of how this is going to fade in and out. If you want it to go straight down, I'm going to drop it down a little bit. So now you can hear, let's play this.
Hey, doing great.
Thanks for joining us. So, one of the things that I know is that making portraits is not necessarily easy. You could be a great photographer, but it goes beyond just...
So you can see how gently that fades out. So I'm happy with this. So I'm going to... So now I have got my interview is mixed, it's edited, I've got music at the beginning, and now I want to put music at the end of my interview. So I'm going to take the same piece of music, I'm going to take this WAV file, that's the one that the computer created for us, and I want to stick it beyond where Rich ends, because I want that music to trail out afterwards. So let's play it from about here.
ExposurePAS.com, and it's Exposure Photographic Art Studio, and I'll have a gallery of my work up there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me for Photo Focus. My name's Rich Harrington, and we've been speaking with Robert Pinelli.
Okay, so you can see that I have, that's the great thing about the waveform. I can actually see where the big beats are. So I've got this big beat that's happening right as he's through talking. And I can move that around. I can see where that beat happens. So I'm happy with how that ends. I need to play with my levels. If you remember, back here we adjusted this -9. That takes care of the entire track no matter what we put on there. So now that we put this music on here, it's set to that -9, so it's already set to that same volume. If we needed to, we could have put that music down here on a different track and done different things with it, but we're fine here. So what we want to do is we want that volume to be down until he's through talking here. So I'm going to again click here to set a keyframe. I'm going to set somewhere in here. Let's set it about here. And I want to bring that down. So now let's listen.
Get a lot of tips and tutorials.
So now our music is lower.
Go to ExposurePAS.com, and it's Exposure Photographic Art Studio, and I'll have a gallery of my work up there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me for Photo Focus. My name's Rich Harrington, and we've been speaking with Robert Pinelli.
Now you can certainly tweak this all you would like. I'm happy with that, but I want this to fade in. I don't want it to just start, because if you listen now.
Well, V, this is great. I know you have some classes coming out on photography, but where can people go to learn?
But I want that to be a little bit more subtle fade in, so I'm going to grab our box at the beginning and let me do a fade in.
Can hold it if they're comfortable, and that will really help fill that light in. Well, V, this is great. I know you have some classes coming out on photography, but where can people go to learn more about your photography and see some of your work?
Photofocus.com will be a great source where they can get a lot of tips and tutorials. If you want to see
there you go.
Work, you go.
So we have now created a mix. We've created an edit and a mix in Audition. We've combined two audio tracks to where the interview is sounding good. We've added music at the beginning and the end. So we want to the important thing here, let's save our work. So I'm going to do save as. Now if you remember, we already named this and we already told it, so I'm just going to say yes, everything is good. and it says yes, overwrite that file. Since I had already named it, I could have come up here and just said save, and it would save it. So now I've saved it. What you're going to be turning in is a WAV file. I don't need to see what you've done. I'm going to listen to what you did and determine, does your mix sound right, that kind of thing. So what we're going to do is go to File, we're going to go to Export, and we're going to do a multi-track mix down. And we want to do that of the entire session. Okay? So again, I want to put it in that same folder that everything else is in. So I'm going to hit Browse, make sure it's in that same folder. Here's my lesson. And this Og4 interview, that's where your project file and everything is in that folder. So I'm going to just do this. The only thing I'm going to do is add my last name to the beginning of this. And it's called Mixdown Wave. So I am happy with that. Oh, let me move this up to where you can see it. There you go. So now I'm going to hit Save. So it is set there. I'm going to leave everything else the same in this, and I'm going to say OK. Now this is not a terribly complicated file, so it's not going to take very long. So I'm going to hit OK, and you can see that, boom, I am through. So I'm going to go and I want to open up, I'm going to do Finder, going to go to my desktop. Here's where my files are that I'm working on, this. And you can see that here is my PKF file. Again, is just a an Audition file. This is the WAV file is what you're going to be turning in. You won't need to compress it. You'll just turn this in, but it's always important. I like to click it and play it. And listen, make sure it's going to play. I can, just doing it this way, I can scan through. Going to scan down and listen to the end.
If you're a beginner, you can hold it.
Photofocus.com will be a great source.
So here's the ending.
You get a lot of tips and tutorials. If you want to see my work, you can go to exposurepas.com, and it's Exposure Photographic Art Studio, and I'll have a gallery of my work up there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me for Photo Focus. My name's Rich Harrington, and we've been speaking with Robert Bonelli.
There we go. So I have verified that my file will play all the way through. So this is where I'm going to go, and this is the file that I'm going to upload to the link that I gave you. Again, you can watch this as you're doing it. If you need to pause it, if you need to back it up, go through this. This is not terribly complicated. It's just a matter of getting used to Audition. If you are having any difficulty, please contact me. Email, phone call, something to where I can help you with it. You don't want to fall behind. We've got two more audio projects we're going to be doing. And so you'll need to do all of these, and they're all due next Monday, on the 20th. So, stay up. I will be sending you those. I'll do a video for the next thing we're going to be doing. And then I'll have a video explaining what your final assignment is for Audition. So there you go. Good luck with this, and we will see you next time.